Good morning. Welcome to CATEX-TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Tuesday, November 24th, 2009. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the U.S. It's 4:30 p.m. in London. In Bermuda, it's 12:30 p.m. and in Mexico City, 10:30 a.m. If you need to reach us during the broadcast, you can phone in toll-free at 1-866-67-CATEX. Overseas, our AOL instant mail address is CATEX-TV. We have a couple of stories that are coming in. The British media is reporting that President Obama has decided to send 34,000 more American troops to Afghanistan. The president has a nationally televised speech to the country a week from tonight scheduled already. The networks have agreed to provide airtime. And thus far, the only people offering that report are the one newspaper in Britain. I believe it's the Guardian. Also, there's some economic news in the U.S. We'll get to the GDP numbers in a second, but American home prices rose again. This is taken as a good sign. Also, American consumer confidence has improved. Now to the GDP numbers. The American economy grew at a 2.8% pace in the last quarter, as the recovery seems to be getting off to a bit of a slower start than initially thought. The U.S. Commerce Department came out with their 3.5%, actually they came out with their 2.8% rate this morning. It was not as energetic as the 3.5% that we saw in the July to September quarter. The main factors behind a little bit of a slowdown: consumers haven't spent as much, commercial construction was a little bit weaker. Businesses also trimmed more of their stockpiles. Inventories are about at zero now. The new reading on the GDP was a little bit weaker than the 2.9% that had been expected by economists, but the good news, of course, is that the economy is finally growing again. This is after a record 4 straight losing quarters. The bad news is that the recovery will probably be a little bit slower. In the reinsurance world, Glacier Re is making some more news. They're feeling the continued effects of their founding CEO, Robbie Klaus's departure. 2 more senior executives have quit. The chief strategic officer named Dirk Turley and Glacier Insurance UK branch manager Steve Price both resigned. This is less than a month after Klaus left himself. Klaus was replaced by Todd Hart, one of Glacier's founding shareholders. Turley, one of the members who departed, was a founding member. He played a key role in developing the Glacier Re and Glacier Group franchises, while Price was instrumental in establishing the UK infrastructure. Hart looked internally to fill the voids. Morton Powell is Price's successor, and Andrea Zidrinek is going to move to the newly created role of Chief Risk Officer. The Chief Financial Officer of Glacier, Glenn Campbell, said the Glacier Group continues to maintain a strong and liquid balance sheet with an excellent level of risk-adjusted capitalization. We expect our portfolio to be near or surpass the $1 billion mark by year end. Swiss Re made some news this morning. They're set to transfer 75 million pounds of extreme mortality risk in the U.S. and England to the capital markets through a new securitization program. Swiss Re has entered into a deal with Vita Capital 4, a Cayman Islands special purpose vehicle, to receive up to 75 million pounds of payments in the event of severe population mortality. The agreement will run through 2014. Vita 4, in turn, has issued notes linked to this risk into the capital markets. S&P has rated them BB+. It's interesting. This is the first time an excess mortality securitization has been structured using a CAT model rather than simply relying on historical data. And it's unique in covering an existing event. In this case, it's the H1N1 flu pandemic, the swine flu. Pandemic flu risk was assessed using the RMS infectious disease model. A specific model for the ongoing swine flu pandemic was also incorporated, taking into account possible mutations and antiviral resistance. Swiss Re's chief underwriting officer, Brian Gray, said, "We continue to meet increased client demand for extreme mortality risk protection and ultimately will position the company for further growth." In the United States, if you were anywhere near a morning TV show, you're aware of this already. The head of the Consumer Product Safety Commission in Washington conceded this morning that the agency has not been acting as quickly as it should on crib safety problems, cribs for infants. Interviewed on morning news shows, the chairman of the CPSC, Inez Tannenbaum, pledged that the agency would act firmly but fairly to enforce a law Congress passed last year giving regulators greater authority to police the crib industry. More than 2 million drop-side cribs made by Stork-Craft Manufacturing of Canada are being recalled following 4 reports of infant suffocations. The CPSC said that the recall involved 1.2 million cribs in the U.S. and 1 million more in Canada. Sales of the cribs go back to 1993. About 150,000 of them carry the Fisher-Price logo. The CPSC said that the drop-side cribs have a side that moves up and down to allow parents to lift children from the cribs more easily. It also said there have been 110 incidents of drop sides detaching from the cribs. Apparently what's happening is the infants are getting stuck between the drop side as it's lowered, and several of them become trapped, and a number of them have actually suffocated and died. The stock market in the U.S. is down about 53 points right now. There's a story that just came out saying the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation fund has fallen into the red. It's the first time that that's happened since the savings and loan crisis of the early 1990s. We'll go to a word from our sponsors and come back with the rest of the news.
Every day, the world wakes up and goes to work, pursuing the unique opportunities that lead the global economy forward. The complexity and close connectivity of today's global marketplace is a true modern miracle that can create unparalleled success. But it takes confidence, passion, innovation, and understanding.
Enabling opportunity.
Protecting capital.
Engineering innovation.
Investing in your future.
Ensuring continuity.
Finding the right balance.
It takes Aon.
We didn't cover this story yesterday, but we will today as it seems to be getting worse. The president of the Philippines, Gloria Arroyo, has said that no effort will be spared in the hunt for those who are believed to be behind the most devastating politically driven massacre in the history of the country. At least 46 people now are believed to have been killed in the attack. Yesterday they had thought it was 22. The victims are part of a group of people abducted in a southern province by about 100 armed men. The Philippine Army has linked the killings to political rivalries ahead of next year's local elections. In a televised address to the nation this afternoon, Arroyo said she was determined that those behind the killings would be held accountable to the full limit of the law. Earlier this morning, the president's office ordered a state of emergency in the area, following what they said was the worst political violence seen in the country in recent history. In Russia, at least 8 Russian soldiers have been killed after a truck full of munitions exploded at an arms depot. The soldiers were cleaning up after a huge fire earlier this month at the same site in a town of Ulyanovsk, about 720 kilometers east of Moscow, killed 2 workers. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, 8 soldiers died as the result of a munitions blast at the 31st Arsenal of the Russian Navy in Ulyanovsk. The Defense Ministry said a shell detonated when military personnel were loading ammunition onto a truck to be taken away and destroyed. The blast came only an hour after the regional emergency minister warned residents that it was carrying out, quote, planned detonation of unexploded